only one reason he does that. He smells a ghost.
I don't believe in ghosts. Have we met before?
You say the same face can turn up on different people, isn't it so?
Yeah, I guess so.
Every day to our awesome collection of blockbuster movies. Download the app and subscribe. This isn't just a streaming channel. This is a bold new world of entertainment. Arise Play. Beyond streaming.
To this week, 60 minutes of analytical review of the big stories, topical issues, and all the controversies around the world. I'm Somna Sambu. And now to the headlines. Nigeria's major opposition, People's Democratic Party, begins its national convention after a court in Port Harcourt struck out a suit against the event as embattled chairman Uche Secondus vows to appeal ruling. We'll take a critical look at the issues. And just a few days to the governorship election in Anambra State, insecurity persists despite assurances by security agencies. Amidst fears it may lead to voter apathy. We have analysis. Plus, military junta in Sudan battles massive protests across the country as citizens reject coup and call for a return to democratic rule. We analyze the contending issues. Last, the much-awaited National Convention of the People's Democratic Party is underway in the nation's capital, Abuja. This follows a ruling of the Court of Appeal in Port Harcourt, Rivers State, in favor of the party after the suspended PDP chairman, Uche Secondus, sought an order of injunction to restrain the opposition party from holding its National Convention, scheduled for October 30th and 31st. He had stated that it will deprive him the rights to preside over the convention, but the three-member panel, while delivering judgment on the matter on Friday, unanimously dismissed the application for lacking merit. Meanwhile, Secondus says he will appeal the ruling, rejecting his request to stop the party's national convention. He says the issue is not about him, but the sanctity of the party's constitution and core democratic principles of justice and rule of law. Party leaders have been speaking on the court ruling. Let's listen to them.
The Court of Appeal did not only dismiss the application, the Court of Appeal made further order that PDP should be unrestrained from conducting their convention. Because, you know, in this period we are, somebody could by 2 p.m. go to one court somewhere and get an injunction stopping our convention. So Court of Appeal has, as if knowing the circumstance, knowing Nigeria and our politicians, that anything could be done. They didn't say, we dismiss this application. They went further to say nothing should restrain, nothing should make PDP not to conduct their convention. And it is clear, we are very happy.
We are the last lap of having our convention on Saturday, and we felt it is necessary that for us to have one of the best conventions as expected by our supporters and promoters across the country, we need to train those that will go in there to conduct the process. And we've written to INEC, and they've sent some facilitators to come and give us and give our members the training this morning. I foresee that by the end of this convention, which will be adjudged as one of the best in the history, not just of PDP, but in history of any political party ever in this country, is going to close down most of the political parties, especially APC. So with this convention that we are going to deliver, I believe with the democratic process and procedures that we have followed diligently, is going to open floodgate for all of them to come in. And I think is not just because of the convention also, but because of the situation Nigerians are in today. Everybody is not just looking at as PDP to rescue them, but they are looking at PDP as a platform that they will be able to bring in a new government in 2023.
All right, before we start the discussion of the day, let's go over to Eagle Square, the venue of the PDP convention, where Georgina Ndukwe, who's a rights correspondent, is standing by to give us an update. All right, Georgina, just give us an update on what's going on at the convention. We've earlier heard speeches from top members of the party. Can you just bring us to speed on what's going on?
And he highlighted the need for all party delegates to focus on repositioning the party to ensure that they collect or take back power from the APC come 2023. And the success of this convention will be the first step towards achieving that. These voting booths will soon be filled with delegates that will be coming here to vote for the candidates of their choice. 21 positions are up for contestation. 3 of them are going to be voted for, while the remaining ones already have consensus candidates. Right now, I have someone standing by. He's a delegate from Rivers State, Dr. Chidi Lloyd, Council Chairman and Moha local government area. I hope I got that right. So let's get to hear from him the preparations as regards voting today at the convention. How has it been so far? You've been here since morning. What is your view of the organization of this convention, this year's convention?
Well, ordinarily, I would have asked you because you have been here since morning. But as you can see, this is democracy at display. You can see the very convivial nature of the entire thing. Candidates, we are trying to sort ourselves out, and more than ever before, this party is poised to take over power from the ruling All Progressive Congress. And that's exactly what we are doing here. The thing has been so far, it has been rancor-free. For nearly all the 21 positions, about 3 alone will be contested. The others we've tried to sort them out. So that's exactly what we are doing. Because everybody realizes the need for PDP to come to the rescue of this nation. It has never been this bad.
We will not only deliver
So we are poised to doing that.
We will deliver.
All right, there's a concern among some people concerning having consensus candidates. Some are saying that some of these consensus candidates are actually being imposed on them. What do you think is the real position regarding this?
Well, in every contest, people will complain. I wish you ask those who were chosen whether it was an imposition. So it happens. Our constitution allows that. The constitution of the party allows for consensus. So if people from one region agree, for example, the position of the national chairman, you can see the national chairman is a man who has enough pedigree. So when you have a man like distinguished Senator Iyorchia Ayu, a former Senate President, a former minister, a former academician, so what would you be voting for? So would you say such a man was imposed on the North Central? So people will talk. At the end of the day, this is what the party allows us to do, and that's exactly what we are doing.
Thank you very much, Dr. Chidi Lloyd.
Of the Nigerian society. Because Nigeria is
all right, so the voting is about commencing right now. Some of the voting booths are being set up around the Eagle Square to ensure that the delegates are properly coordinated which voting booths they are supposed to focus where they're going to cast their vote, I beg your pardon. So that's the situation right now. Voting is about to commence here at the Eagle Square. So far, so good. Everything has been going very smoothly.
Before you go, can you tell us the three positions that are up for contest?
To ensure peace.
Before we let you go, Georgina, can you tell us the three positions that are up for contest?
It's exciting to see Nigerians that are ready to, do their civic responsibility, even as party members here.
All right. Unfortunately, she couldn't hear us there. Georgina Ndukwe Ezeyanka, who is a Arise correspondent, bringing us up to speed on what's going on there. Well, joining me in the studio to take a critical look at the ongoing PDP National Convention in the nation's capital, Abuja, and challenges facing the party's leadership is Umar Sani, who is a former spokesperson of the PDP Presidential Campaign Council and spokesman to former Vice President Namadi Sambo. Good to have you in the studio.
Thank you.
Also joining us here is Frank Tieti, a lawyer and Arise News analyst. Thank you for joining us.
Always my pleasure.
Well, let me start with you, Umar. I mean, we followed all the intrigues right from the week when this judgment from the Port Harcourt Appeal Court was shifted right from Thursday to Friday, and here we are. Eventually, we've seen this ruling on the application. Now, Secondus is saying that he's going to appeal this, but the convention is already ongoing. So what relief will he now be seeking when the convention is already underway? And by the time he goes back to court, I mean, the whole convention would have been over.
Let me start by saying that the statement issued by Prince Uche Secondus said his lawyers are studying the situation, and that he definitely has directed them to take steps to the Supreme Court. He did not say which relief he is going to seek, whether the nullification of the convention, or whether the convention stands, or whether the ruling by the land justices, was deficient. He has even gone further to say he doesn't agree with the judgment. Not that he has respect for them, but does not agree with the judgment. That means that the judgment was now ruling to the Supreme Court, whether the convention takes place or not. Even general elections are nullified by courts. What more of a convention? So whatever the issue is, the Supreme Court is in a better position to appraise the basis. But let me state here that the main matter which the appeal court ought to have determined long ago, this appeal was filed since in the month of September. And yet, it was only a motion that was being heard on the 28th. the subject matter of the petition, the appeal, if it has been had, there will have been no need for the motion. So the motion had to come later as a result of the fact that the main matter was not addressed by the appeal court. Now, the main matter is that first, there was an interim injunction, an ex parte order, which removed the national chairman. An ex parte order which did not even give him any right to reply, to say anything. And it is a perpetual order, which means it can only be set aside through an appeal.
Okay, interesting submission you've got. But what's your general overview of the PDP convention as ongoing before I come to...
well, let me say that in all the years, I have been in PDP since 1998, and I have never left the party. I was the first administrative secretary of the party in Kaduna State. I know the party when even conveners were sent to various states to convene and set up structures of the party. So I have never seen a convention which is as bad as this one. The reason is quite simple. For every convention that the PDP has ever held, it has been, a contest, and a convention of a contest. But this is the only convention that came without a contest.
Well, that's subject to debate because PDP leaders have also said that consensus is part of electioneering. And so I'll come to Barrister Tete on that issue.
Before you go there, before you go to Barrister,
okay.
Let me state that in our party constitution, there is nothing like consensus.
Definitely. But they have said that is a political arrangement that is well respected by the law. So, well, let's have your overview on this politics that's ongoing. And, of course, the PDP convention has been underway. Despite the attempts to, ensure that it doesn't hold by the embattled national chairman, which is Secondus, and now he's trying to say that he's unhappy about that judgment that came in yesterday, and he plans to, further his appeal.
Okay, let's get something quite clear. The appeal, according to which is Secondus lawyer Tayo or Yetibo SAN, is that it will continue. Not that there is nothing really to appeal, except they want to appeal a decision on an interlocutory application to the Supreme Court for an event that is already completed. So nobody will do that. Nobody will do that. So the instructions they receive from Uche Secondus, as they reported to the media, is that they will continue with the appeal,
the substantive case
matter,
itself,
which challenges the removal with suspension of Uche Secondus. And the story is that his ward, who are supposed to be the most loyal to him, the foundation of his membership in the PDP, actually suspended him. And the same persons who did that approached the High Court, the First Court of First Instance, to ask the court to interpret in the circumstances with the various provisions of the PDP constitution, whether a member who has been suspended can still operate as a national officer. It was that simple, and there was a number of precedents to that effect, one of which affects the APC, the erstwhile APC national chairman, Adam Soshomale, and the rest of them is history.
The interesting perspective here is that the party's constitution, which previous judgments have said that the affairs of the party belong to the internal issues of the party, and most times courts will say they won't affirm it. This time around, you have the party's constitution in section 59, subsection 3, stating that only the National Executive Committee can suspend a sitting national chairman or, member of the NEC, or a sitting president, vice president, Senate president, speaker, and all of that, if the party is in power. So in all of this, it's confusing to party members.
No, not confusing. You see, the processes of the law, together with the law itself, are meant to ensure that there is no conflict. Now, what has happened is that there is a process called an application by way of originating summons, which means that there is really no contention, but people want to know the intention behind what is written in documents, in papers, in
this instance,
all
the party's
of that.
constitution.
Yes. So the court cannot decline jurisdiction, saying that that is a political question, being an internal arrangement, because the courts are meant to shy away from political questions. Now, the court assumed jurisdiction rightly when it says, okay, let's look at the intention, because behind clear-cut provisions of rules, procedures, and ultimately acts of the National Assembly are intentions that are meant to be interpreted. That's why we have a whole arm of government known as judiciary. And judiciary interpreted that, look, the foundation of your membership, of your leadership, let's look at it, is your membership. And if your membership is affected, then your leadership of the party is affected. So as far as we are concerned, at this time in Nigeria, that is the law. Until there is a superior decision, hopefully in this same Court of Appeal, which I can predict that its mindset is towards that of upholding the decision of the court, the High Court.
Okay.
I think the court
just before I come to him, let me just ask you this question. The issue of consensus that he raised is not in the party's constitution again, but party leaders are adopting that.
No, you see, these are matters of fact. Whereas there is nothing, the constitution of the PDP may not have contemplated consensus. But the fact is that when candidates now decide not to run, leaving only one candidate to run, so a consensus may have tactically taken place, but not as a matter of that can be directly referred to in the Constitution. Okay. So I think I agree with them when they say it's a political arrangement, indeed, more political than legal.
Okay, I'm interested in Umar here. There was this person from the North Central who actually approached the Federal High Court, I think on Wednesday, saying that he wanted to purchase forms to run for the office of National Chairman, but he was prevented by the party from purchasing a form. I mean, shouldn't party leaders know how to manage this kind of consensus arrangement in such a way that party members don't feel aggrieved?
Yes, before I delve into these issues, he has raised very fundamental questions that require answers. Now, party constitutions are internal mechanisms set by the party to shape their thinking, their ways of doing things, and of course, their intended destination. It is not for the courts have really held severally that it is not their duty to interfere in the internal affairs of political parties. And as such, the political parties regulate themselves as to how they run themselves. Now, if, for instance, Oshomole in APC, there is no such provision as to stop people from the ward, because the intention, as he rightly captured it, is that it is envisaged that people from the ward, anybody from the ward, can instigate the ward to go and remove a national officer. And so the intention is to stop such type of practices where somebody can just wake up and say, okay, what executives remove this man.
So the thinking of the founding fathers is that it may be embarrassing to the party.
Exactly.
So they try to prevent that.
That is the preventive aspect of it.
Okay.
Then, coming to the issue of the consensus that he has mentioned, and the issue of purchase of forms. Now, you can't, micro-zoning. Zoning is part of our own party constitution. Section 7 is very clear. It has allowed zoning. But when something is zoned, it does not mean that anybody from that area cannot look for it. Now, the person you are talking about is from Benue State. The thing was zoned, or even micro-zoned to Benue State, which gives that person the right to go and purchase form and contest. Now, the matter is that he will not be allowed to purchase because it is a fait accompli. It's not a political arrangement. It is a fait accompli. Already somebody has been chosen, and that is the person. So, but the essence of a convention is that people should come out to contest.
Even and there should be voters who vote for
there should be vote, yes, then votes. This helps. It helps the political party. It helps the shape the party, and it removes, this bickering after the convention.
So does that make IU's position shaky, even if it's affirmed at the national convention?
Because as it is now, you don't even know those who are opposed to him. those who are, because people have kept quiet to see what will happen.
Okay.
After the convention, you will now begin to see that some people are now saying they are also national chairman, and there is another national chairman.
All right.
That would be unlikely. I mean, that would be unlikely. Very unlikely.
Interesting.
What we get is a situation, possibly a situation of a number of aggrieved members who will approach the court with facts that they indeed attempted to purchase forms, and that the situation referred to as consensus candidate and or a sole candidature that emerged as a result of certain political arrangement wasn't true. Now, the court will take cognizance of those kind of facts, and there will be some form of legal tussle. But interestingly, what we must see is that how much the PDP has managed itself to the extent that despite internal wranglings and dissatisfactions, to the extent that he is mentioning, they have all been subsumed. And what we have now is a situation where EOCHIU is most likely and predictably to be, affirmed as the national chairman.
Okay, very interesting indeed. Now, we'll be going on a short break, but when we come back, I just want to talk about the speeches that we've heard so far from most of the top leaders of the People's Democratic Party at the National Convention, which is ongoing in Abuja. So, we are taking a short break, and when we come back, we'll also take a look at the Anambra election and how to ensure peace. Stay with us.
This is no ordinary talk show. It's no holds barred. No question off limits. It's in-depth, far-reaching, going beyond the headlines and getting to grips with the big issues. I'm Charles Anyegolu. I'm the interviewer, and this is the Arise interview.
Welcome back. You're still watching This Week on Arise News. And I still have with me here Barrister Frank Tietie, who's Arise News analyst and a lawyer, and Umar Sani, who is a former spokesman of the PDP Presidential Campaign Council and a spokesman to former Vice President Namadi Sambo. And we've been taking a look at the issues on the ongoing convention of the People's Democratic Party. And I come back to you, Umar. When you hear Wike making comments after the Court of Appeal judgment on that injunction, that the Court of Appeal went forward to grant powers that no one should actually tamper with the PDP convention unrestrained, as he said, what came to your mind?
Well, what came to my mind was that I thought he was the one who wrote the judgment. I assumed.
For real?
Yes, I assumed he was the one.
Why will you assume that?
He wrote the judgment because
the court could have been decisive in trying to anticipate that some other party members may approach other courts.
Because the matter is before the court is for a motion to stop the convention, and it is the duty of the court to say we agree with this motion or we dismiss the motion for lack of merit. Now, if the court goes further to say okay, without anybody making any request, and say that it should be unrestrained from it, it gives a sense that either the PDP went to procure the judgment or they wrote the judgment.
Well, I don't think would want to agree to that, because I mean the court judges are people who are of integrity. But I will now come to you based on these allegations which he has raised here. Do you think also is the fear of granting of ex parte orders which caused an uproar across the nation earlier on that made the judges to be very careful in choosing their words?
No.
But when they also went ahead and used that unrestrained, just like Governor Wike said, hasn't it, put the whole thing in a mixed format?
Not at all. You see, you need to understand the legal process. First and foremost, for every application that is on paper, for every motion paper, to a very large extent, you have what we call the omnibus prayer. That is a prayer that will become necessary as a result of, the issues that are being canvassed. And we were not there. We don't have all of the arguments that were, put forward by the different lawyers there. And the court is a repository of justice. It knows more than everybody in that court, presumably. So in course of it, the court on its own, based on its inherent powers, can now make can make a direction, can make an order as to the omnibus prayer, and for further orders that the court may deem fit to make in the circumstances. So it's within
its powers.
It is
to actually grant.
To actually make. So the court will not pretend that it does not understand the political climate where anything can happen. But I think what's fascinating, which Alhaji is considering as if it's the fact that PDP was undeterred in the way it walked towards the convention. It expected that there was going to be a sort of victory, and it didn't actually hold back, because you need to see the finesse that they put into the Ego Square and all of those things. But you see, political parties that are smart hire pundits, legal pundits, to also make predictions and say, look, with the way this is going, a situation where you have this Chief Justice of Nigeria deprecating chief judges across the country for allowing ex parte orders to be granted recklessly, and judges being extraordinarily careful not to appear to be political, not to appear to have been bought over. They now want to be on the side of justice. And you see, with the outcome of the ruling, it appears that they were smart as members of the judiciary to have made a pronouncement that cannot really easily be faulted.
Oh, all right. So you also think that the judges considered the cost that may accrue to the PDP if the convention is halted?
It's a matter of law. It's there. The principles of granting such applications, or like in Kote and CBN, all of them are there. That is, you have to do what we call you have to balance the convenience. The balance in taking
so there
that
was a
decision,
balancing
the balance
act.
of convenience is that
all right.
it's easier to do away with the Secondus claimed legal rights, which they said he doesn't have as a person,
Yes.
but rather is his office, than to just stop a party convention involving people across the entire country.
Very interesting. Okay, well, let me come to the speeches we've heard so far. So try to run very fast on this. We've had an article saying that, look, this country is badly run at the moment. If PDP comes back to power in 2023, a lot of changes will happen. We've also had, other leaders making all those things. Do you think that the PDP is actually on the right path to rescue Nigerians, if I may use that word, based on what the party leaders are saying?
Well, I have always believed in the PDP. That is why I have never left the party for one day.
Were you approached and you didn't leave, or you just decided to remain there?
It is nobody. You don't need to be approached in Nigeria.
Okay.
Yes, you don't need to be approached. You can just move if you want to move. You defect. So I have never defected to any political party, and I do not wish to leave the PDP for any other reason.
Wow.
Whatever it is, I prefer to fight it internally and get it resolved so that we move forward. Okay. And I believe I have always said it, that the PDP has an internal mechanism for shock absorbers, for all these things to move forward. And I believe that the PDP will put its own house in order. There will be, reconciliation committees and so forth and so on that will reconcile the party. And
to the extent that Nigerians will accept them back and entrust them with power?
Yes.
You think that can happen between now and 2023?
Well, the issues, that have bedeviled us previously are still there. And the issues that the APC had raised, had championed, are still there. Now, the APC had always used one tactics or the other. Initially, their coming in was laced with propaganda. Now, having come in and settled, they have also used every means available, including saying they can never lose an election. Because when the president says, I will not congratulate anybody, you must congratulate me, it means he can't lose.
Very interesting. So you think that the message from your party leaders today will actually sit well with Nigerians?
Well, I believe so, that Nigerians are looking forward to the PDP because they have tasted two sides of the coin. They have tested an old wife and they have tested a new wife. And now they have seen the difference. And like the 7-up jingle, the difference is clear.
Okay, very interesting. You are helping them to advertise there. Well, let's take a look at the speeches coming out from there. I mean, the rhetoric has been, look, this country is down, insecurity, this and that. But we had these same issues when the PDP was in power.
You underestimate.
Do you think a lot of Nigerians will give that party a chance again?
Again, many people seem to underestimate the power of incumbency. The PDP blew it in 2015, and the PDP must be up against a very big task to think that it will be Tea Party to take power in 2023. The ruling APC is ensconced in grabbing power without making unnecessary concessions, as the PDP did, trying to be,
I mean, the PDP even tried. At a point in time, they even formed a government of national unity with the PPA having a minister and all of that, but we've never seen anything like that in the APC government.
The APC is not willing to be that, consensual. but again, you have to look at the real place where the power lies. I mean, the place where the real power lies, and that is in the people. So are the people sufficiently, conscious enough to give a new direction to Nigeria? It's not necessarily about the people who are running PDP or APC, because they form a very small number of persons who actually make political determinations in this country. Oh. It is a larger number of persons in the populace that will make that determination. So how do we reach out to them? Now, the point is this. We can only be confident if we have worked hard enough on electoral integrity that will now make the people truly be the kings of the election.
The kingmakers, as you said. Well, very interesting indeed. We just have to move on to other stories now. With less than a week to the governorship election in Anambra State, insecurity still persists in the state. For more than 6 months now, many parts of the southeast have been under siege by armed men, and the nation's security services are battling to contain the insecurity. On Friday, an operative of the Department of State Service was killed in Anambra after a clash with members of the proscribed indigenous people of Biafra and ESN. The footage and Photos show the extent of firepower against the security agents as bullets riddled windshields of vehicles. This has now put fears on many citizens eager to exercise their voting franchise on election day on November 6. Election observers also fear that it may result in voter apathy. But the electoral umpire says all is well and the security agencies are doing their best. Let's listen to them.
When we released the timetable for the election on the 19th of January this year, we identified 14 activities that had to be accomplished leading to the election, from the publication of notice to election day. And as of today, we have successfully accomplished 12 out of the 14 activities on schedule. The only outstanding activities are the last day of campaign by political parties, which is going to be in the next 8 days, 24 hours to the election, that is Thursday, 4th November 2021, and the election day proper on the 6th of November.
We have provided all platforms, that will give a level playing field for all citizens that will partake in Anambra election. Now, the librarians are people that are ready to go for election. And we as security agencies, we are charged by our responsibility to be apolitical in our function. And so we are ready to send our people there, and we have detailed and explained very clearly to our personnel that they need to adhere to all decorum.
All right, we have the electoral umpire there and a leader of the one of the security agencies too. I still have in the studio with me Umar Sani, who is a former spokesman of the PDP Presidential Campaign Council and spokesman to former Vice President Namadi Sambo. And also with me here is Arise News analyst Frank Tiete, who's also a lawyer. And I come back to you, Umar. It's an atmosphere that's making a lot of people jittery in that part of the country, Anambra State. And politicians don't seem to be helping matters. The rhetoric somehow is encouraging violence, according to some people. How do you think we can hold peaceful elections so that political parties that have campaigned very well will have their message resonate with voters, and then voters will go out to elect the new governor on election day?
I think in Anambra State, the issues are not about politics or politicians. It is about the insecurity in the area. And the insecurity in the area is so endemic that it has created fear in the minds of the citizens and the voters. So we are believing that the massive deployment of security personnel may assist, but it may not generally give succor.
Yeah, and that's why people are saying that it may lead to voter apathy when you have security operatives everywhere on the streets.
Exactly. So the issues are so germane and so cumbersome that one begins to view things from a different perspective. Will voters even turn out? If they turn out, will they even be able to vote their choice? Because it will appear everybody is looking at them, and if there was no any sit-at-home order, will there be no fear that after you vote, before you reach your house, anything untoward could happen, and so forth and so on? So to be able to hold such type of, it is not the spread of security agencies, but it is the shooting words of the elders, and even the negotiation with even the local militia, if there is any, that are causing these things, that can allow people to come out en masse, to come and vote, to exercise their franchise.
Well,
otherwise, they will give room for for other people filling the ballot box for them.
All right, interesting indeed. But I've been told that I just have to go on a short break. When I come back, Barrister Tieti here will give us a wider outlook on what that means. Just stay with us as we go on this short break. welcome back. You're still watching This Week on Arise News, and we're still discussing the Anambra elections. Let's talk about how the rhetoric can be controlled to calm frayed nerves and ensure that the right message is sent out in this last week that we have as a last window of opportunity to ensure that voters have some soothing relief for them to be able to turn out to vote on November 6th.
I think I want to agree with Alhaji Umar. The rhetoric actually hasn't been the problem. The problem is more of the state of insecurity. And if we listened to the INEC chairman together with the representative of the Nigerian Civil Defense, Security and Civil Defense Corps, you will realize that the optimism is worrisome, because the state of affairs in Anambra State, and to a large extent the entire South, is not one that can guarantee elections.
Yeah, I mean, that's why I said rhetoric, because you hear today that there's a sit at home, tomorrow you hear that there's no sit at home.
Well, if you are
this other group will deny it, and this one will say that there's another different faction.
All of these have exposed the inadequacy of our electoral reforms. Not too long ago, we had things like mail-in votes and all of that. Yeah, there cannot be a political vacuum in Anambra State. And in a situation where the INEC chairman decried about 86 polling units that don't have just one, 86 polling units don't have a single voter registered in those polling units, shows you not only how pathetic these voters
I think it's because of the new polling units that were created.
But it also shows that the fact that there was no proper electoral education, there was no voter education to the extent that they don't know. And then we're talking about an area, and I agree with you if you refer to that as that's what you meant by rhetoric, where a certain group will make an order as to sit at home, and they actually sit at home in compliance against the directive of government. I think that our electoral reform should be looking at a situation where people can actually. I belong to an association.
And vote.
I belong to the NBA. We elected our president by just putting our call numbers and then on the internet and all of that.
That's why
so the electoral reforms, yes, the e-voting should contemplate all of this so that we can actually, even become better than the Americans who talk about mail-in votes.
All right, we just have to move on to other issues now. Since October 25, when a military coup upstaged the transition government in the country, the North African state of Sudan has lost its sleep. There has been daily tension in the country of 45 million, with citizens on regular protests against the military takeover. After much tension, Abdel Fattah al-Burhan, the general who seized power in the coup, says the military will appoint a technocrat prime minister within days to rule alongside it. The coup has derailed a transition meant to steer Sudan to democracy with elections in 2023, after long-serving ruler Omar al-Bashir was toppled 2 years ago. On Saturday, thousands of anti-coup protesters in Sudan took to the streets of Khartoum to demand the restoration of a civilian-led government in what they term million of October 30 demonstrations. The protesters have called for a return to a path of democracy as they rejected military measures and demanded the release of detainees. What is the future of the country, and how can this trend of military incursion in democracy in Africa be checked? Well, I come to you, Umar. We have military incursion again in Africa. We've had in Guinea, we have in Mali, it's coming to Sudan, and a lot of people are beginning to wonder if military rule is not returning.
Well, because there is failure in democracy. Most of the democracies in Africa, are such that they make, bogus promises, and at the end of the day, the people are suffering. And so they believe that somebody somewhere must come to rescue. And the military is the last option in such rescue operations. You can look at the way what they did in Guinea, where they took the president that they toppled around the town, and the people were jubilating that the president has been removed. But military rule all over the world, everywhere, is an aberration. No military rule should be allowed to stay. But in Africa, that is why the great Zik, Nnamdi Azikiwe, recommended Daiki as a system of governance.
A combination of both the military and
civilian
civilian government.
civilian,
Well, we tested it in the aborted Third Republic, and it failed.
Yes, yes, because we believe that the military will always smell power and will always want to come back to power. And so he believes that if they are accommodated, a lot of issues have arisen where IBB will say that they are the military wing of the PDP. So it is that means the military is also interested in politics.
In politics,
and they are supposed to be apolitical. They are supposed to maintain. They are supposed to protect the territorial sovereignty and territorial integrity of a country.
Very interesting. Let's have your view. I mean, it's the same Dayaki that he is talking about that worked in Sudan. Yet the transition government was toppled by the military. You had the military, the Al-Burhan and Hamdok going side by side.
No,
yeah,
Africa is suffering. Africa is not moving forward. We are retrogressing, you know, and the reason, one of the main reasons we are doing that is because we have not been able to develop our homegrown kind of democracy. There's similarly to, you know, democracy may not be perfect, but you don't have a better option. The people have to.
But when you have democratic leaders toppling the constitution, like it happened in Guinea, where someone was seeking third term, and you could hear President Buhari too saying just yesterday that there's a call on him to run for third term, and he's asking people to stay away.
There will always be praise singers, there will always be persons who come to give the impression that, you know, who will always come to fool you because of whatever they have, you know, intention, that mischief makers. For goodness sake, India has existed for a long time as a country with the worst problems than any other country in terms of, you know, managing its democracy. But the military of India has never contemplated taking up power.
Yeah,
but in Africa, what you have in Africa is people just concerning themselves with brute power without the intention of transforming the lives of the people. Something very instructive is going on in Sudan, which is very exciting. The African Union may be failing Africans in terms of, you know, advancing the protocols of democracy, but the people of Sudan, look at them. Yeah. They're on the street saying that we want people power and not military power. How has military regimes helped us? They created more problems for us as a country.
Let's look at the
in
solution.
Nigeria, they gave us a civil war. We have not recovered from that till today.
Now, let's look at solutions very quickly. In less than 30 seconds, what should be done?
In the end, the African Union should take leadership. And I miss.
Well, they've already suspended Sudan.
That is not enough. I want that's why we always wanted a strong Nigeria. Well, Nigeria should stand up and say, look, this is what we want. I'm not very comfortable with the way Egypt and the rest of those North African powers are operating now, because they seem to be collude. They collude with these current guys who are truncating the system. But were Nigeria to assert its might, even though it's been faced with its own internal problems, I believe we'll have a direction. Africa, you know, has to come to rescue.
You mentioned Abdel Fattah al-Sisi of Egypt. He's a product of the same military coup. Very quick solutions, Umar.
Well, I believe, you know, all countries have their internal issues, and each country must be allowed to operate its sovereignty. People should not go into their country and become their father, their Lord and Savior. Now, the people within know how to solve their problems themselves. Now, it is incumbent on the people to rise, which Sudan has done, to rise against what they don't want. And once they rise against what they don't want, then people now can come in, because there is something to show that the people that you want to rule are saying we don't agree. They are afraid of guns. They are afraid, but they have come out.
Very interesting indeed. Well, just back to the PDP's national convention that is ongoing. Before I let you go, as a PDP chieftain, there have been these discussions here and there that there are some group of former governors who don't want the party to hold this convention, while the new governors want the party to continue with the convention. Who do you think is winning at this point?
Well, I do not want to take sides, because they are all, both old governors and new governors are all part of the PDP. But I must tell you that there is fire on the mountain.
All right, very interesting. We just hope that the party leaders in PDP will quench the fire very quickly, and especially party elders. Well, that's how it's been for this edition of This Week. I must thank my guest, Umar Sani, who is a former spokesman of the PDP Presidential Campaign Council, and Frank Tietie, who is a lawyer and Arise News analyst, for joining me to take a critical look at this PDP National Convention and other issues. But for me and the entire team here in Abuja, goodbye and thank you for watching. I'm Sumner Sambo.